Hello, this is JJ Humphrey. Welcome to Elephant in the Room. Hey, everybody out there that's listening, guys, today I have a very kind of special to me, session. We were wanting somebody to come on from Payne County. We were unable to get anybody. Guys, there's a lot of people scared to come out and talk on this grand jury at Payne County. There's a lot of people just, man, they've seen the retaliation that I've got, that Daryl's got, and they just don't want to get under that kind of retaliation, kind of microscope, and be the target for basically the Oklahoma government, for the Supreme Court, for judicial complaints, now the AG. So, guys, here's what I wanted to start with. I'm calling this my 1776 moment, okay? This is my 1776 moment because, guys, I'm no longer really, I'm going to be a state representative till November, so I'm going to finish out my term. But as it is right now, guess what? That's the end of my political career as far as, what's up next, what comes next. I don't know. We're going to see. I've got some options. But, guys, that doesn't mean that I stop being a citizen of the state of Oklahoma. You don't have to be a congressperson. You don't have to be an elected official. Guys, we all have a duty to our state and to our United States to make sure that we hold government accountable. And guys, when it says we the people, I am very much a we the people person. And I'm very proud that I never took any kind of kickback. I didn't take money, just like in this election. You can go look. I was probably the lowest. If you want to look at any state person that ran for a statewide office, I will guarantee you I'm going to bet that I am the lowest taking any kind of donations, taking any kind of money. Because, guys, that's what's wrong with our society right now. They're bought and paid for. Now you have to buy elections. It's getting to be a sad, sad day. And if we don't start fighting to take this state back, I'm not worried about, I am worried about the United States. I'm always interested in our country. But guys, you start by cleaning up your own backyard. That's where you start. And again, so I just want to kind of do a little civics lesson, something most of y'all already know, but the First Amendment. Now, I like to think, this is J.J. Humphrey's opinion, I like to think the founding fathers put the good stuff in the First Amendment, okay? They put the good stuff in the First Amendment. So I just want to remind you what your constitutional First Amendment right is, and that is that you have the right to religion. And guys, you got to remember that there was a lot of people being persecuted for religious sake, and that was one of the things about this country. When we established our country, we established that, hey, there could be different religions and people are going to respect everybody else's rights and your right to religion and to how you worship. And so, again, that's a big, big thing, getting the government. Now, here's what's funny. I say we need to get the government out of religion, but we need to get God into the government. That's where we need to be. And that's where we were when we started this country. And if you go look at the amendments, if you go look at the Constitution, if you go the early founding fathers, the papers they wrote, all the discussions they had, guess what? God was in the middle of all those conversations. So again, I'm very much about keeping the government out of our religion, but I'd like to see more God in our religion. Freedom of speech. Guys, in that time, if you said something against the king, against the government, the established government, which is king, guess what? You could be in prison. You could have your life taken. And so, again, we have the right to speak. And I will tell you something. People quite often speak very negatively of me. I have people saying stuff that is completely false here lately on a marriage bill. I've got people that's not smart enough to read a bill, and that bill had been in place for I don't know how many years. Probably more than 40, 50 years. And again, I just said I wanted to keep the bill, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm a pedophile. I'm trying to do pedophilia." they're so ignorant they can't even read a bill. They don't even know what the bill says. They don't even know that I'm trying to say, hey, this bill actually protects people's rights, protects families' rights, and that's what I was trying to do. Now, I got a lot of people calling me out on that. That's their right. It doesn't make me mad. Doesn't bother me. They're liars. I chalk them up to not being able to read. I just say they're illiterate liars, you know. But at the end of the day, they have the right to say something. And you know what? If I step into public office, I better be able to take it. When you say, hey, I'm going to be a public figure, guess what? That's what comes with it. So there's the right to speak. Now, here comes the most big one that I want to talk about today, the right to petition. And guys, you know, that right to petition is huge. And so, you know, we got to make sure that we, the people, is who the government answers to. And that's what the petition is all about. These founding fathers understood this. They understood the corruption of government. They understood the corruption of courts. They had to deal with the corrupt government. They had to deal with corrupt courts, and that these courts were being bought off or bribed or wasn't in the interest of the people, and that you couldn't win, the cards were stacked. All of these kind of things that court system that they were under, and they didn't want that. They wanted a court system that answered to we the people. So that's what all of these rights, this constitutional First Amendment right is about. Right to religion, right to a free speech. I left out right to free press. Guys, we're seeing our press taken over. You're not seeing a free press. You're seeing a very controlled press that prints the news they're told to print. And again, if you listen, and I listen to Newsmax quite a bit. Me and my wife was talking about Newsmax this morning, how they're turning more to what Fox was. You know, they say that we're fair. We don't tell you how to think. We don't tell you how to think. Well, guess what? If you're watching them right now, that's less news and more kind of this little program of telling you what to think. And you know what I'm saying? We get very little factual news that doesn't tell you how to think and lets you process it. That's what we need. We need factual press, but we're seeing press controlled by one side, one narrative or the other, and not factual. And so that's a big, big deal, guys. It's important. I mean, that's why this First Amendment is so important. We have to fight for that. We have to keep a press that's going to tell us what's actually going on. That's why I love social media so much. Yeah, there's a lot of false stuff goes in social media, but you get to hear it and you get to process it and you get to see what it is. Now, I say that we need to set some laws up on AI to make sure that we get a true press, that they can't falsify stuff. But guys, this petition is based on all this. The grand jury petition is what keeps all of these freedoms. It's what holds that government, what holds that court system accountable. And guys, we have a very, very corrupt government, and we have a very, very corrupt court system, and they're collaborating, they're working together. That's what we're going to talk about today, how that's happening, what's going on, and why it's so important that all of us get involved in this process. It's not about Payne County. Yes, we're planting a flag in Payne County because we have a lot of stuff we can show. But here's the deal. This is much larger than Payne County. This is all of Oklahoma. And really, when we get it done and get it done right, most of the nation, and I will tell you this, I've got people all over the United States. I'm asked this, in fact, tonight, I'm going to go on a mock deal for a grand jury for the nation. And then they're going to turn around and do a completely mock on Wednesday night, I think, for the entire nation that is going to be sent to the federal government so that they can see there's people all over the nation testifying, telling about what they know in all of these problematic areas with DHS, with false arrest on people, with taking people's homes improperly, and again, adult services taking properties away from these elderly. Just basically, the court system is robbing a lot of people, taking their kids away without probable cause. And again, there's a lot of money involved in all of these things. It all revolves around money. As we always say, follow the money. And that's what this is all about. Guys, we have the right to assemble. And we see that being abused in a lot of places. Guys, that don't mean we have the right to riot. We have the right to assemble. Now, when you start destroying property, you start burning property, when you start harming others, guess what? There's laws that prevent that. But if you want to assemble, we have that right to assemble, and the government can't stop us from assembling and being vocal about what is our rights. We have the right to association. Guys, that's how the petition gets done. When we start associating, when we start talking together, we start getting together saying, hey, this is wrong, and we're going to form an association right here in Payne County or there in Payne County. I'm down here in Lane today, but in Payne County, there's going to be a group of people meeting today to discuss how to go forward with this grand jury. And again, how to keep a corrupt government from hijacking the grand jury process. We've been approved to have a grand jury. Now, how do you keep them from hijacking? We're going to show you their attempts already to start doing that, their attempts in the past to do it, and how they're going to try to do it moving forward. Our government is involved in this, and worst of all, our court system. And the biggest disappointment is the Attorney General. We're going to get into that today. I'm just setting this up so y'all understand what your First Amendment right is. This is your number one amendment right. You have the right to religion. You have the right to free speech. You have the right to a free press. You have the right to petition. You have the right to assemble. You have the right to associate. And then the last one's redress grievances. That means to call out the problems that you've had. So if government has done something to you, if the court system has done something to you, this grand jury petition is your method to address those grievances and redress those, and to make sure that we, the people, hold that government and hold the court system accountable. So now, guys, with all of that said, I want to make sure that y'all understand when I'm saying that it's my 1776 moment. In the 1776, you had a group of men, and they got together and they formed this nation. They formed a constitution. And guys, when they were doing that, and that wasn't all done in one setting, one process, that took several years and several meetings, and at risk of their own life, risk of their family, risk of their properties and their homes. And man, these guys put it all on the line. If you want to know how we got such a great country, one, it's established on God, but two, when we talk about public servants, these guys were the ultimate public servants. When we talk about like today, our military, the military men and women go give it all. Well, guys, these were people who gave it all and who put everything on the line to make sure that we have the great country that we live in and all of the freedoms that we have. But guys, if we don't fight to keep those freedoms, if we don't fight, the enemy is within. You know what? We've got a great military, but if you look at all of these past great nations, great kingdoms, guess what? They fell from within. When you start having, you can always tell a country there's several things that you want to look at in a country. One, when you start seeing your gold, wherever the gold is, that's where the power is, okay? Wherever the gold is, follow the money. Wherever the gold is. Now, guys, y'all go pay attention and start looking. Where's the gold going? Where the gold's leaving the U.S., and it's important that we turn that train around and get gold coming back here. It's important we as Oklahoma establish a gold currency, and we tried to do that. And again, we're beat down by the leadership. But anyways, it's important we do these things. But guys, when you're looking at a nation, you look at the gold, you look at when they made statues of, like there in Rome, man, when they started, hey, they're making statues of their military people, their heroes, their military. And then they start tearing them down, and guess what? They start putting up guys in dresses, okay? And so when you start looking at America, guess what? We've already seen that they have torn down the statues of our heroes and people who built this country. And guess what? Start looking at what they're being replaced by and all the conversations. And so, guys, right now we're in that 1776 moment where we have to stand up and we had to take our country back. We got to quit worrying about offending people. We got to start calling these government officials who claim to be servants. And if they are servants of the people, then why in the world are they acting the way they do? So I want to get right into this grand jury and why the grand jury was asked for and what formed that. So some of y'all have already heard a little bit about this. I'm going to go pretty quickly through this so that we can establish where we are right now. But we had a couple of situations where kids were reported waterboarded in a mental health institution called Greer Institution there in Enid, Garfield County, okay? And we had people come forward, whistleblowers who were fired. They came forward. They had pictures of the kids being obviously looked like they were stomped, looked like they were struck in the eyes, black eyes, beaten. And they had pictures of that. So there's no question on that, whether that was true. But the reports of waterboarding, possible person being killed up there, to my understanding, have never been thoroughly looked at, never been investigated. We brought it forward and it was totally ignored. We had kids being sexually abused by employees at a state detention center there in Tulsa. Now, here's a big rub, was that the head people over OJA, which is Oklahoma Juvenile Affairs, OCCY, which is Oklahoma Commission on Children and Youth, and DHS were made aware of this and did absolutely nothing, refused to contact the police by law. They're required, if they know that a kid is being molested by the employees or molested, period, they're required to call the law enforcement in. That's state law. You got to call law enforcement. And again, if you looked at a deal called Kelsey-Briggs Act, I think that falls under Kelsey-Briggs Act. They refused to do that. And then later, that same information was carried over to a federal agency. That agency raided that Tulsa Detention Center, found that they were actually molesting kids and quite a bit more, and individuals were charged. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I think probably those people who are in charge of those agencies should at least have to answer for that. They ought to at least be looked at. I don't know if we file criminal charges on them. I think it's kind of borderline whether that's just negligence on their job or whether it's actual criminal charges. I'd lean more towards the possible ability of criminal charges, depending on how much they knew, how much you could prove they knew, all of those kind of things. So that's why it should be investigated. Anyways, that was written up. A report was written up on that. Colleen McCarty, who just ran for DA there in Tulsa, and this is one of the reasons I supported her, was that she came in like a champion, and she came in and was a hero in this situation, where she wrote, and her and Appleseed wrote a extensive report on all of this to the AG, sent it to the AG, sent it to the speaker, sent it to the pro tem, sent it to the governor, sent it to the heads of these agencies. Now, I'll let you guess what happened to that. Nothing at all. They did absolutely nothing. Now, how can your AG, your leadership in the House, your leadership in the Senate, your governor, and all these agencies receive this very detailed report? I mean, like daily, here it is, here's what happened. All kinds of issues, and totally ignore it. They did absolutely nothing. Because they did nothing, that report got sent to me about 60 days later. Man, I got all over it. And I will tell you this, I was on it before then. I'd asked them to send that to these, to the AG and to the leaderships and all of that. And I had predicted, I prophesied, they would do absolutely nothing, which is exactly what they did. But you got to give them an opportunity, and you got to show that they're going to do absolutely nothing. And they did absolutely what we had predicted. They did absolutely nothing. Shame on them. I mean, like major shame on them. And again, under Kelsey Briggs, do these people have a duty to act? I think they have a duty to act. If you want to look under a state statute, I think it's I'd have to look at Title 7410-1 something. I mean, we could go where I don't want to pretend to be a lawyer, but I know it's a misdemeanor under Kelsey Briggs. I don't know if it carries a stiffer punishment or not, but all these state agencies and all of these leaders who have a duty to protect failed to protect the most innocent in our society and refused to protect them. So I had a committee hearing. I was told can't have a committee hearing. Kind of went back and forth. Yes, I am. Like, hey, okay, if you don't want to have one, I'll make sure everybody knows that you refused, and I'll go across the street and have one. They finally said, go ahead and have your meeting. So we have a committee hearing. We have a criminal justice and corrections committee hearing. And in that hearing, we had many cases testify. And we had Colleen and her team with Appleseed come in, testify. We had a person from Tulsa who was charged with kidnapping her own kids, where there was absolutely no kidnapping. And she had to get the kids out and was told if she didn't get the kids out, they were going to charge her with negligence. And then she went and got the kids out, and they tried to charge her, charged her with kidnapping, been pending for 4 years. That scoundrel that's a DA up there, he's charged her, and then he offers her 90 days. Guys, when you offer 90 days for kidnapping, guess what? That's all you got to say. Right there, 90-day deferred. Guess what? I think it's what he offered her. I'm not going 100% sure, but I think that was offered at one time. That'll show you what a scoundrel he is. And so, again, he didn't step in on any of these Tulsa deals. None of our people stepped in on any of that. And so one of the cases that was in this committee is a horrific case out of Payne County. Now, here's what's huge. The OSBI already had an order to do an investigation on this case. They had already received orders to do an investigation on the Payne County case. Okay, we turned around and we ordered, based off what we had heard in that, we legally had the right, because if you looked at the OSBI's webpage, it was even posted on there at that time, that one of the ways to order an OSBI investigation is that a committee chairman with the majority of his committee could order an OSBI investigation. I not only had a majority of the committee sign off ordering an investigation, but we had 5 or 6 extra senators and representatives sign on to our order, making it extra good, should have been followed. Instead, what we seen was the leadership killed that investigation. So they stopped an investigation into kids. One of those cases was Woolley case. We're now seeing that come to light, and we're seeing just how bad that was handled by DHS. This was 2 years ago. We could have prevented a lot. We could have got that kid back to his family 2 years ago. We got this case on kidnapping, still not resolved. It's still pending. Again, the DA ought to be looking at criminal charges for abuse of office, in my opinion, on that. Then we have this Payne County case. The guys, unbelievable what's going on. Unbelievable the proof we have that this kid has been abused, massively abused, and nothing been done. The court system knows it. The court system has returned the child without having proper hearings. The court system has failed to contact law enforcement as required. And then again, the law enforcement, we can now show, has been made aware, and they're culpable as well. Unbelievable what's going on there in Payne County and Stillwater. So again, guys, we had all of this in this hearing. We ordered the investigation, and our leadership killed that. We involved another court system who didn't act appropriately. We contacted the Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice, and I personally wrote what they call an amicus brief. That's a friend of the court brief. And, told them what was going on. They totally ignored it. And again, with Kelsey Briggs, little girl got killed in such a manner where She had been before the court. Her case had been before court, DHS, numerous times, time again. They kept putting it off, doing nothing, leaving the kid in harm's way. The kid ends up dead, being put in the refrigerator. It got national attention, and all of a sudden, Kelsey Briggs Act comes out saying, you can't just sit on your ass while a kid's being abused. Now, that's what it says, and it's, that's Humphrey's language. But that's what it says, is we can't sit around on our butts waiting for something to happen in the court system. 2 years later, well, what do you know? They were telling the truth. No, we are supposed to take action. And the Supreme Court totally ignored their duty, their responsibility, and again, they failed. And that is why all of these people, that is why we went to Payne County, because we could prove that case. Another reason we picked Payne County was we were aware of a lot of stuff going on that appears very criminal. For instance, the Jesse Butler case that got done. And again, we didn't know the extent of what would happen in that case, but we knew it wasn't being prosecuted correctly. We know there's a case called Mahan up there that several rape have been reported, alleged. And again, it appears to be true. It appears that the DA has a very decent case on these 5 possible alleged rapes that occurred there in the college. That appears that this family has great political stroke and that nothing is being done because of that. We've seen that here recently involving the governor's office. Again, this is high-ranking, same kind of stuff, and these cases are not being prosecuted. Butler, that's one of the things that was reported, not going up to the state level, but being there at the local level, favoritism and knowing everybody. And it appears like that could possibly, no question, be the problem. And again, we talk about cases like Seth Swain. I think there's a more John there. These are teachers who have committed multiple sex acts that are not being prosecuted and continue to catch new charge after new charge. We had the Kevin Etherton, which was a ADA assistant district attorney who had 150 hours, 150 videos, not hours, 150 videos of porn. And he was caught as a district attorney with 150 videos of child porn. And that was in 22. And guess what? He was never prosecuted till we started raising hell on all this, start trying to get a grand jury and call him out. Now, guess what? That is why that and many other things, this one case that we're talking about that's in Payne County that we have so much proof on. And again, that's why we chose to that's why, and again, one of the things that the government officials and judicial complaints and all these lawyers have tried to put me into every grand jury, Grady County, Oklahoma County, Tulsa County, Wagner, Garfield, all of these, they've tried to establish me in them, and they're cur dog liars. They can't find one thing. Oklahoma City, I helped on some. I went out and collected signatures on that. I did write the judge on that. I wrote a couple of people on that and wrote the Supreme Court, as I said. So, yes, I was involved in that, but I did not petition. I did not do anything that they're claiming I did. So they're a bunch of cur dog liars when they say that I set up everything, because they're trying to act like J.J. Humphrey is the organizer of all grand juries. And guess what? Even if I was, that's my constitutional right. I could do it if I want to. And again, I would be proud to be involved with any of these groups because they are standing up for their rights and going after the court system for gross abuse of their office. And it's high time, and dang right, I'm proud to do it, and I'll stand with any of them because that's their right. That's their constitutional right. We have a right to hold them accountable. They answer to us, not the other way around. And these scum suckers, hey, guess what? They think that they are they total control. They're so arrogant with their thinking that their money and their power rules everything, and that you are scurvy and that you cannot hold them accountable. Well, guess what? They're in for rude awakening. We're going to keep on until we get it proven. We are the government. They answer to us, not us to them. And that's under the that's the First Amendment to the Constitution. So here's what happened. We had a one grand jury. We filed the first grand jury. And guys, here's what's funny. We filed that, and right after we filed that, the chief organizer, a guy named Daryl Doherty, guys, he was instrumental. He was not going to let the abuse of his kid slide. He was going to make sure they have went after him like gangbusters. Before this grand jury started, they were after him. He stood tall and he stood against them, and he's still standing there. But his kid come forward and made a report of more abuse. Now, he was taken to the police department. They have it on record that the police department knew. We went to the court system to Judge Reese, and Judge Reese refused to get involved, saying that he was over the grand jury and he couldn't get involved. Well, that's fine. Then Judge Reese has an obligation to assign a judge to take that case, because under the law, they're required to have a hearing within so many days to make sure that that kid is not being abused, or if he is being abused, that he is placed in the right placement. Instead, what he did, he derelict his duty, did absolutely nothing, would not get involved. And again, we have people in other court systems trying to take over the case that were disqualified. They could not even be in the case. They were from another county, had no business in the case. This is a judge. And again, I say an attorney involved with that judge, and they falsified information to get this dad arrested. Now, again, all this is in about a 2-3 week period. So we're rolling into, I want to give you August the 25th. So we started that grand jury at the end of July, August the 25th, based on information that the Supreme Court put out. They show that Chief Justice Rowe met with Judge Reese on about the August 25th, on August 25, that he meets with him. Now, that's pretty interesting in that Chief Justice Rowe was named in this grand jury, but he is meeting with the judge that's over the grand jury. That looks a little sketchy. I could let that go if that's all that we had. That looks a little sketchy, though. Y'all hang on to your hat, though. We're going to get a little bit more. Okay, so here's the deal. 3 days later, after that meeting, we have a judge from out of county that's not involved, disqualified, named on the grand jury, disqualified, out of county. This is not his case, no nothing. He files into the case, issues a warrant for Daryl Doherty's arrest, the dad's arrest. And again, based on a flat ass lie that we can now prove 100% wrong. He did not get a sworn statement. Again, he got an illegal warrant for Daryl Doherty, and he should have never been the person getting that warrant, because he's named in the grand jury and he's disqualified, and he was out of county. But he got the 2 warrants, not 2 warrants, 1 warrant, 2 charges. Daryl Doherty found out, went turned himself in. Court clerk wouldn't accept his bond. Finally, one of the deputies, there's some great officers, great police officers, great deputies. Kudos to this deputy. I wish I knew his name, call him out and give him a great kudos. But this deputy said, hey, if you don't take that bond, I'm letting him loose, because what you're doing is wrong. The clerk took the bond. Daryl got out. Hey, that afternoon, now here's where it gets really fishy. That afternoon, the DA, who's named in the grand jury, and the judge who's over the grand jury, who couldn't get involved in Daryl Doherty's case to save his kid, to actually have, a look whether his kid was actually being physically abused, didn't care nothing about that. But he met after hours, it appears, with the district attorney, Thomas, who has many, many questionable things going on. And so Miss Thomas and him stay after hours, get a warrant based on a report from the police chief, where one officer is given the report and the chief makes a statement in the report. It appears to me, that's from me reading it, that you're getting my opinion. But it looks like, now you can't do 2 sworn statements. I can't swear what you swear to, okay? I can only swear to what I swear to, but it looks like they're swearing what the other one said. So that's a pretty shaky little report, in my opinion. But again, even if the report were true, and even if they filed it, down at the bottom, it says that it's 2 misdemeanors is what they're saying. The district attorney takes that report, turns it into child stealing. Now, Daryl's done been up there to the courthouse. He's done been to the police station. He's done told them, hey, I got the kid. We're going to have a hearing. We're calling for a hearing before I take him back. Under the law, he's protected. That's what he's supposed to do under the law. He's doing exactly what the law tells him to. These sorry suckers falsify all of this stuff, get a warrant, and issue $1 million bond for him. $1 million. Go up there to Payne County, find me another $1 million bond. Hey, you can kill somebody, you can rape somebody. Guess what? You ain't going to get $1 million bond. Now, this judge, he lied about that, and we do it all the time. You're a liar, Judge Reese. That's a lie from the pit of hell. That's a lie. Like, you know it's a lie when it come off your tongue. So here's the deal. He lies. He issues $1 million warrant. Then he offers to, hey, if you give the kid back, we'll reduce that to $250. Now, guys, that's extortion all day long. That's abuse of office. It's extortion. And again, so the kid, it gets changed from that you provide the child to law enforcement to you provide to your mother. Now, here's what's funny. The kid checks himself in. Daryl's in jail, so he ain't got nothing about this. The kid is advised to go check yourself into by some good law enforcement people. Call and say, hey, check that kid in. Have the kid go down, check in under saying that he's abused. So when the protocol is when a kid checks himself into a shelter claiming abuse, that they have 72 hours minimum that they will stay there and be protected. They're going to get an investigation. They're going to get counseling. That's what that kid's guaranteed when he goes in there to do. Guess what happened? The police threatened the kid's stepmother, threatened her. It's all on guess what? I guarantee you we can, I feel very confident that can be proven. Okay. Then we turn around, they threaten. And then she ends up telling them, which again, they're not supposed to get. They know they ain't supposed to get it. And then they go and tell the abuser, and the abuser comes, picks up the kid, and the judge who's not involved in the case, who has been disqualified, who's out of the county, and he orders the shelter to give back the kid. Hey, we got a report from the shelter saying this ain't right. This is wrong. Now, I want you to put a little notation in that the person that's over that shelter is, guess what? None other than Gentner Drummond. Now, all of this is being reported. All of this is being out every day. Where's Gentner Drummond? Now, we got to add the fact in 22, a Lincoln County. Now, this is my understanding. In 22, a Lincoln County judge requested that DA Thomas be investigated due to some shanky stuff, and asked Gentner Drummond's office to investigate her, and they refused, would not investigate Miss Thomas, DA Thomas. So again, Gentner Drummond has failed to act when we have notified him of kids being abused, kids being waterboarded, of kids in Payne County being sexually abused. He has failed to act when he is over these shelters. By law, he is over these shelters, and he is supposed to be the one that protects this stuff. He was absolutely notified, and if he investigated this, the extortion, the false arrest, and everything else should have come up under that. But by falsely arresting, by collaborating with each other. Now, here's why I wanted to make sure you understood. The Chief Justice Rowe met 25th with Reese on the 28th. 3 days later, guess what? Leach issues warrants. Reese and Thomas issue warrants. And guess who files into the case? McCall, Hilbert, all file into the case to file obstruction, to file a motion to quash. Now, what's the likelihood? What's the mathematical probability that all them individuals would happen to do all of that in coordination on the same day? I say pretty slim indeed, that would all happen on the same day. But we like to call that in the criminal justice business, that's a clue. Scooby-Doo, we call that a clue. Scooby-Doo would also say, right, wrong, Shaggy. Something wrong, okay? Now, here's the deal. All that happens, they file a motion to quash. Reese illegally lets that in. Guys, there is no mechanism to file in that grand jury petition. That grand jury petition is just that alone. It's a petition, and they have no legal standing to file into that to try to kill it. It's called obstruction of a grand jury. It is illegal. And when they allow that, that's called under the color of law. They're allowing, the court system is allowing a criminal act with their knowledge, and they're allowing the court system to carry out that criminal act under the color of law. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so they file their obstruction case, their motion to quash. Then we get the numbers. Daryl gets out of jail. We get the numbers. We had sufficient numbers, but Reese says that they're not sufficient. And again, he quotes a case that's pending. You can't use something pending as a source. You can't base your law on something that ain't been done yet. So he's basing his decision on something that wasn't done yet, which is another grand jury case that is still pending. And again, what they're going to find is that it violates, and that's why it's been pending so long, it violates the Constitution in the way they're supposed to count cases. We'll get into that in just a minute. So Reese basically killed the grand jury. And another thing we brought was that he had called the election board, which is wrong, and then told them how he wanted numbers. The election board said the board met, the board never met, said we all agree, and here's the certified number. That was a lie. The board never met. The board, now I have found out that so I want to let the election board secretary, because I've been kind of hard on her, but I did find out directly from the state election secretary, who ought to be in trouble. He needs to be included on this grand jury because he told her to do that. So again, he's already told me that he approved that. So let's put it on his shoulders and let's make him answer for that. That was fraud on the court when you said that the board had met and the board had certified, because that's a total lie. So somebody needs to be called in on that. Reese wouldn't do it. We end up sending that to the Supreme Court judge who was named in it. He cannot answer that because he's named in it. How simplistic can you get? Nobody needs to tell you you can't rule on your own case. None of us are lawyers, but all of us know that much law. And the fact that he is so blatantly illegal. I mean, you talk about lower than low. I mean, here's the guy that's supposed to be in charge and making sure everything is done correctly. And this sucker's breaking the biggest rule and doing it broad daylight and daring anybody to do anything about it. You talk about needing to be taken down. This sucker needs to be taken down hard and fast. And so anyways, he's ruling on it, kicking it out or prolonging it, saying, well, you didn't put it on cardstock. You didn't make it pretty enough, all this kind of stuff. So we started a second grand jury. They go through immediately when we file that. Reese, the judge, recuses. They send it in the middle of the night to Roe. Nobody is doing proper service. Nobody's doing any recording, which is required by law. Send it to Roe. Roe is, and we named the entire Supreme Court on this one, which means it had to go to the governor to find somebody who's not biased. Guess what? Roe picks his own judge. You talk about Shanky, as Shanky as she gets, sketchy stuff. Now Judge Mai comes in. We try to get her to disqualify because look at there. I mean, it's obvious you can't do it. Judge can't appoint his own, judge. It's wrong. She knows it. He knows it. She won't disqualify. We're showing that some backdoor stuff has got to be going on. How did that case get all the way to skip a whole judge and get all the way to Supreme Court judge? And then it gets assigned to Mai before we can even know. She's already made a decision before we can even know. Now, she has to uphold a grand jury. And she said, well, judges and politicians can't be held accountable on this. Bull. That's why we got the grand jury. That's exactly why. She does not have the right. She cannot. The grand jury trumps her. Grand jury trumps her. Well, here's what's funny. We get the third grand jury. Now, in that one, they filed a motion against me for $50,000. Now, guys, there's 16 people filed on that. She files they filed, not she. Charles McCall, Hilbert, and judicial complaints. Now, Judicial Complaints is a group that's supposed to be over, they're a state group supposed to be over these judges. When judges act incorrectly, they're supposed to hold them accountable. Can you imagine a state office, a state agency using state funds to try to kill your constitutional right and join with judges who are corrupt as hell, and not only join them, be right in there, get right in there and try to kill a grand jury? That's what's wrong. You talk about corrupt to the core. We're corrupt to the core. We got that. We tried to get them disqualified, wouldn't. We started a grand jury again. Now, guys, I was being targeted. Daryl was being targeted. They left us out, and they started their own grand jury, the Payne County parents. And, guys, now they have gotten the signatures. We have produced the evidence to show there has been a ruling that says there is no mechanism, as we've argued through the first two, no mechanism to kill this. We got approved. We showed the numbers. We showed constitutionally how you count it. We showed the proof of that. And guess what? It was all approved. It's already been approved. There's no thing for them to file in. Now, here they come, first of all. And you need to know, all this happened Friday. It appears like it didn't get put into OSCN until Saturday. Now, when did that ever happen? When did a clerk come in specially on Saturday? And what's the chances that McCall, the Judicial Complaints, and Gentner Drummond all decide to file at the exact same day, and all of them get held over until Saturday to go on the computer? Now, what's the chance of that? That's some more of that mathematical probability. Slim to none. Slim to none would be that chance. Absolutely. You want to talk about sketchy. You want to talk about red flags going off everywhere. If this was a football field, every referee on the field would have thrown a flag on this one. Okay, so guess what? They filed Gentner Drummond. Now, you got to get this. You remember, I told you that Gentner Drummond had an opportunity in 22 to look at this DA's office, was requested, refused. Gentner Drummond had 2 multi-county grand juries put in on this Payne County case. Guess who killed them? Gentner Drummond. Actually, John O'Connor's the one who approved the multi-county grand juries. Gentner Drummond took over for John O'Connor, and his office killed those multi-county grand juries on a case where a kid was obviously being abused, obviously massive problems, and he killed that. Now, again, that's Gentner Drummond. Don't forget, I told you that he's over that shelter and all the issues that I explained with that shelter. Guess what he did? He did absolutely nothing. Now, let's go to Wagner County, because Wagner County had a grand jury, and the DA who was named in the grand jury, DA named, is the one that argued to kill the grand jury over numbers, okay? Now, what he used is a case that's called King versus Muskogee, okay? King versus Muskogee. Guys, I don't want to act like I'm a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a pretty decent investigator, not a lawyer, but I've been around this stuff. I try to learn. I try to listen. Now, my understanding is what happened in that case was that basically Muskogee argued this is one way to count the grand jury, and that Kings never came back and argued, so that case remains basically uncontested, so they won, but it's not state law. You cannot use it as factual law. So again, when you present something as factual law, then, it's false. It's fraud. You can't do that. You cannot present something as factual law, as legal standing, when it doesn't have legal standing, whether precedents hadn't been set, it has no legal standing. Now, my understanding, when you file something like that, if you're going to use the King versus Muskogee, you have to present the whole case. You can't just say, oh, here's King versus Muskogee, and this is what it says. You can't say that, because that ain't what it says. You got to present the whole facts of the case, because the facts of the case are that ain't what it says, that it was never objected to. And so nobody got down to the fact, is that constitutional? Nobody looked at the fact, does that actual meet mustard? So when Gentner Drummond, one, has no standing in this grand jury. So the grand jury's been approved. We got all of it in. They agreed that they can't come in. So the judge has already ruled there is no mechanism come in and kill this. So McCall and them already tried third time to obstruct. They already tried to get it done. Something funny, just a side note, they all addressed it to me like all these people are my followers. Ain't that kind of funny? They still going after me even though my name ain't on it. Now here's what's funny, McCall's name ain't on it either. McCall's not even named in it. It said House Leadership. Again, that may be him. That may be Kyle Hilbert. We can look at who it is. Okay. Now, here's what's funny. They already were told, nope, you can't file into this thing and kill it. But here's what happens. Oh, Gentner Drummond, your candidate for governor, please don't forget that, files in illegally to try to kill it. And he claims, here's my standing. The DA's office is conflicted, so it should go to me. Well, guess what, Mr. AG Gentner Drummond? Your office is named in there because you killed 2 grand juries. Oh, most sketchily, oh, most ugly. I would say borderline criminal. Definitely reasons to kick you out of office, I think. But we can see, I mean, that's why we have a grand jury. We have to have their opinion, not J.J. Humphrey's opinion. The people are the ones who would decide that, not J.J. and not Gentner. That's why we have a grand jury. Second, you were over at youth shelter, did nothing at all. Third, you were told by a judge it needed to be investigated. You did absolutely nothing. We can get into more and more stuff, but you're conflicted. You're named in there, rightfully so. So you don't have any business being in this. We will properly ask for the right instructions to get a decent prosecutor. That's within the judge's means, and that's within the people's right to request and how to request that. And it can be done, and it's easy to do if that judge will follow protocol. And again, there's not a whole lot of previous laws set up, so they can't say, oh, you can't do that, you can't do. We're digging up new ground right here. So here's the deal. Gentner has no standing. He's trying to do a fake dive into the grand jury by saying, no, he goes to me. Yeah, you're full of crap, Gentner. Good try. But here's the other thing is that he's claiming that Muskogee versus King, I think he broke the law. I think he used that illegally, fraudulently, produced fraud on the court, claiming this is a precedence when that is a total lie. He knew it. At bottom line, if it is not illegal, it is certainly improper. When you put that together with that, we caught him having ex parte communications in a death penalty case with Judge Lampkin. Hey, he ought to be disbarred. He should have no standing in this. He ought to be disbarred. I want to go back to that Muskogee case where that DA who was named in it, who could not present himself. You talk about ugly, you talk about some more sketchy violations. Any judge should have seen that coming. That judge was from Pittsburgh County. Guess what? Mr. Jack Thorpe has had some very, very questionable deals dealing with a sheriff and a grand jury in Pittsburgh County. Yeah, Jack, I know all about that. You need to be checked out on that with you and your wife handling it. How sketchy can you get? But Jack is in there arguing his own numbers. And then once the court sided with him, they appealed it. So it's still on appeal, it's my understanding. Court's sitting up there waiting for how long, because they don't want to rule, because they know what the rule would be. Because if they rule against the people, guess what? They're ruling against the Constitution. They're going to come out. Everything's coming to light. So here's the deal. Jack Thorpe turned around and tried to file. He went to Gentner Drummond's office and tried to get charges filed against him. Now we're seeing a couple of those cases, like the Woolley case. Guess what? It's coming to fruition, and it's showing just what they claim. We're going to see the Woolleys come and get clean, I believe, and the truth of what Jack Thorpe's office did is going to come out in that case. We got another case that went to federal court that he argued. He said nothing happened. A kid was beaten to death by police officers. Guess what? Federal courts agreed. So all that stuff they were asking in the grand jury appears, at least two of the big cases, appears absolutely true that Jack Thorpe said was a lie and tried to get grand jurors arrested or investigated at least. And guess what? I mean, here he is supposed to uphold the Constitution. I just told you the First Amendment says that you have the right to a grand jury, and yet this DA who's supposed to protect your rights is out there protecting his own sorry ass, trying to get it killed, violating Amendment number 1. And guess what? We've got a Supreme Court judge, Justice Rowe, doing it. We have Judge May letting them get by with it and participating in it. We got Judge Reese. We got Judge Leach. We got D.A. Thomas. We got Charles McCall filing in. We got Hilbert filing in. We got judicial complaints. Unbelievable, using our tax funds to go after and kill our First Amendment right, grand jury. Now, guys, this is what we're fighting on. This is what it's all about. I don't have time to go over all of the cases and cases and cases that we have got for a grand jury. There's a reason we picked Payne County. We got lots of cases. I named a couple of rape cases, but we have many, many DHS cases. We have people ready to come forward. We have whistleblowers ready to come forward. Now the question is, can we maintain, will this judge stay the course and say, Gentner Drummond has no bearing, no authority, no standing, because he don't. The argument is based on a fraud argument. He put fraud into the court, and guess what? He's conflicted because he's in the court, and now we see all three of these people come once again and try to obstruct. They still got a motion against me for $50,000. How did they get me, one person out of 16? I've asked for the Oklahoma Participations Act to be kicked in, which says, in my understanding of the law, it basically says that you can't be sanctioned for following your constitutional right. And it basically demands a hearing, and it basically says, one of us shall pay that $50,000. And again, if they find that I was frivolous, only did was everything they claim I can prove is a 1,000% lie. And again, they got some problems, but they're not going to go forward. Doesn't look like it. If they want to go forward, let's rock and roll. Let's get her on. I'll tell y'all, I know y'all's watching this, so y'all can try to find something to get against me. Go right ahead, because again, you are not servants of the people. Servants of the people. Gentner Drummond, servants of the people uphold the Constitution. Servants of the people make certain that people get the right to a grand jury, that they get the right to redress grievances, that they're protected by the government who swore an oath to protect them, as you did, swore an oath, but you violated your oath. You have let children be molested. You have let rape victims go. You refuse to hold the DAs accountable. We're not even getting into the money issues on the DA and all the corruption that goes with that. We're going to bring all that. That's coming to light too. And Gentner, you have much fell down on that, and I think intentionally lied on that. So again, all of these things will come out, are going to come out, and I will guarantee you it's going to be hell to pay when they do. And if they keep on, we're in it for a fight. I mean, here's the deal. This is my 1776 moment. This is where we take back Oklahoma. This is where we show Oklahoma how it gets done. This is what's going to start the rest of the state gaining back their criminal justice system, their court system. This is where we stop DHS from stealing kids, kidnapping kids medically, where we stop them from taking people's property through adult protection, where we stop the daggum system of foster care being corrupt and criminal. And this is where we say enough is enough. This is where we begin to look at agencies, not just DHS, but OJA, OCCY. We need we need to correct these agencies. It is time we call them out. Department of Corrections the same way. This is where we call out wrong. This is where we start holding our government accountable. We're going to show how to get it done. We're not backing up. If we get a thump, just like we've had 1, 2, 3, if we got to have 4, I'm in it for 4. If we had to go file federal lawsuits, I think we've got all the evidence that we need to file a federal lawsuit on the corruption of this government, as well as talking to the FBI to show how corrupt all these individuals are. It's criminal. What they're doing is criminal. There's no question. Can we find anybody with the guts to call them out and to hold them accountable? I don't know. I'm hoping this judge sticks to the course, holds tight. I hope we can get a grand jury that'll get proper instructions, that they won't try to mean mug us, put us a daggum prosecutor in there that throws the whole thing. We got a plan to try to prevent that. But guys, it's a fight. We're in a fight. We're in a hell of a fight. And we're fighting for your right. And we're fighting for the state of Oklahoma. And we're fighting against the very corrupt criminal justice system. And your top guy just showed his hand and showed how corrupt he is. Again, your Chief Justice has showed how corrupt he is. And we've seen some of our top government officials and the system that is supposed to hold judges accountable. We've seen them come in and try to obstruct. We've seen them try to intimidate witnesses. We've seen them falsely having witnesses arrested. This is what's going on, and it is time they're held accountable. And I will promise you, I'm going to do everything within my power that we're going to see it done. I'm going to follow it through no matter what. Everybody said I was only doing it for political reasons. Guess what, guys? I don't have a political reason. I'm doing it because it's right. It's the right thing to do. I'm doing it because I don't have grandkids yet, but I want my grandkids to grow up in a free society, the freedoms that I've enjoyed, the freedoms of America, what made America great, what made Oklahoma great. Let's take it back. Let's take back Oklahoma. Let's kick the hell out of them and kick them out of office or file criminal charges if that's what is necessary. But guys, it's time we take Oklahoma back. Hey, I've ranted and raved, but I had a lot to get off my chest. I had a lot to cover in an hour. It sounds like an hour is a lot of time. Guys, I could go another hour on what's going on there in Payne County. Please get involved. Please stay tuned. Please check this out because, guys, it's not just happening in Payne County. This is going on across a lot of the state. A few of y'all got some good judges. I can name 3 or 4 good judges. Cleveland County, Bryan County, Toka County, some good judges that I know. But you're fortunate if you do have some. And again, like I say, a lot of the counties don't have that, and it's time that we hold the ones accountable that are destroying evidence and putting people in jail criminally and wrongly and taking kids without due process and making lives destroyed. It is time to hold these people accountable. I hope y'all will join me next week. We'll keep you updated on Facebook. Go to Justin Humphrey Facebook if you want to stay up on what's going on in Payne County. Y'all have a blessed day.